My name is Fatima, and I was born in Alexandria, Egypt. Our house was small but full of people, my parents and 8 children. I was number 5, right in the middle. Please comment where you are watching from. Your words will be encouraging as we interact and share thoughts together. Every morning started the same way. The call to prayer would wake us up while it was still dark outside. My father would gather us in the sitting room where the Arabic calligraphy hung on the wall. The words looked like beautiful art, but they felt scary to me because I didn't understand their deep meanings. "Repeat after me," my father would say in his deep voice. We would all recite the Arabic words, trying to copy the sounds he made. My tongue always felt clumsy with those words. I worried that if I said them wrong, Allah would be angry with me. I spent most of my day sweeping our apartment, washing clothes in the small bathroom, and helping my mother cook. At school, I struggled with my lessons. When the teacher called on me to read Arabic words aloud, my voice would shake. The other children would giggle when I stumbled over big words. I felt like everyone could see that I wasn't smart enough. One evening during Ramadan, I was so hungry and thirsty. I saw a cup of water on the table. I looked around, no one was watching. I quickly took a small sip, just enough to wet my lips. But my little brother saw me. "Fatima drank water," he shouted. My father's face turned red with anger. "Do you want to bring shame on our family?" he yelled. "Allah sees everything you do." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Allah watching me, writing down every bad thing I did in a big book. I pulled my thin blanket over my head and shivered, not from cold, but from fear. The day I brought home my report card, I knew it would be bad. When I got home, my brothers were already showing their report cards to our parents. I heard my father's loud, happy voice praising them. "Excellent work, my sons. You make me proud." My mother clapped her hands and smiled. Then it was my turn. The sitting room suddenly felt very quiet. My father took my report card and his eyebrows came together as he read it. "What is this nonsense?" he said, holding the paper up. My mother sat on the edge of her chair, her hands folded tight in her lap. She wouldn't look at me. "You are lazy," my father continued, standing up now. "You spend your time daydreaming instead of studying. Girls like you are nothing but trouble and expense." I wanted to explain that I tried hard, that the words were difficult for me, that I stayed up late studying by the light of our small lamp. But my throat felt closed up, like no words could come out. Then he said the words that felt like a knife in my chest. "I wish someone would come and take you away. You are of no use to this family, such a shame." My legs felt weak. I ran to the small room I shared with my 2 sisters. I threw myself on my mat and cried until my eyes burned. That night, I couldn't sleep. "God," I whispered, "why did you make me if nobody wants me?" I couldn't stay in that house anymore. Every time my father looked at me, I heard his words again, "of no use." Every time my brothers laughed and played, I remembered that they were the ones who mattered. Early the next morning, while everyone was still sleeping, I quietly packed my things. I had 2 old galabayas, a hijab my grandmother gave me, and 50 Egyptian pounds I had saved from running errands for neighbors. I put everything in a small plastic bag. My heart was beating so fast as I tiptoed through our sitting room. I looked one last time at the Arabic calligraphy on the wall. It still looked mysterious and intimidating to me, like a language from another world. When I reached the bus station, it was already busy even though the sun was barely up. Drivers were calling out the names of cities. Cairo, Aswan, Luxor. I found an empty plastic chair and sat down, holding my bag tight against my chest. I watched families saying goodbye to each other, children excited about trips, mothers giving last-minute instructions to their sons. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to go, someone waiting for them. But I had nowhere. Tears started falling and I couldn't stop them. A little boy with a dirty face came up to me. "Sister, why are you crying?" he asked. I wiped my eyes quickly but couldn't answer him. That's when I noticed a woman watching me. She wasn't young like my mother, but she wasn't old either. She wore a simple blue dress and a light head covering, and had a kind face. When our eyes met, she smiled gently and walked over to me. "Little sister," she said softly, sitting down next to me, "what brings you here so early, looking so sad?" Something about her voice made me feel safe. Maybe it was because she called me little sister instead of just girl. Maybe it was because she really seemed to care about my answer. I don't have anywhere to go," I said, my voice cracking. She nodded like she understood. "My name is Sister Miriam. Would you like to tell me what happened?" So I told her about my father's anger, about feeling unwanted, about having nowhere to go. She listened without interrupting, sometimes nodding, sometimes making soft sounds like, that showed she was really hearing me. "I know a place where you can be safe," she said when I finished. "It's a home for children who need families. Would you like to come and see?" I had no other choice, and something inside told me to trust her. So I nodded and followed her to a beat-up van parked nearby. The children's home was unlike any place I had ever seen. It was a small compound with low buildings painted white and green. But what surprised me most was the sound. Children were laughing. Real, loud, happy laughter. As soon as we entered the gate, 3 little children ran up to Sister Miriam. "Sister Miriam! Sister Miriam!" they called, hugging her legs. She bent down and hugged them back, asking about their day, their studies. I stood there watching, amazed. Adults in my house never seemed that happy to see us children. "Everyone," Sister Miriam called out, "this is Fatima. She's going to stay with us." A group of children gathered around me. They looked curious but friendly. One girl about my age said, "Welcome. I'm Noor. Are you hungry? We just finished eating rice and vegetables." I was hungry. I hadn't eaten since the night before. But what surprised me was that they seemed genuinely happy I was there. No one asked me why I came or made me feel like a burden. Inside the main building, I saw something that made me stop and stare. On the wall was a picture of a man with gentle eyes, holding children in his arms. The children in the picture looked happy and safe. This man looked nothing like the scary images I had in my mind when I thought about God. "That's Isa Almasi," said a small boy who had been following us. "He loves children very much." That evening, all the children gathered in a small room with plastic chairs arranged in rows. Sister Miriam stood at the front with a book in her hands. "Let's start with our song," she said with a smile. The children began singing, and even though I didn't know the words, I could understand them in Arabic. The melody was simple and sweet. As they sang, I watched their faces. They looked peaceful. Happy even. I had never seen people look like that when talking about God. Sister Miriam opened her book, she called it the New Testament, and began reading a story. Isa was walking by the Sea of Galilee, she said, and he saw some fishermen who had been working all night but caught no fish. Isa told them to try one more time, and when they did, their nets were so full of fish that they almost broke. "But the most amazing part," Sister Miriam continued, looking right at me, "is that Is didn't care that these men were just ordinary fishermen. He saw something special in them. Isa sees something special in each one of you too." I felt something warm in my chest when she said that. Could it be true? Could God really see something special in me? After the story, some of the children shared things they were thankful for. "I'm thankful that Isa healed my mother when she was sick," said one boy. "I'm thankful that he brought me to this family when I had nowhere to go," said Noor. When it was time for bed, I lay on my new mattress thinking about everything I had heard. The God they talked about didn't sound angry or scary. He sounded like someone who actually cared about children, who wanted to help them, who loved them just because they were his children. Could it really be true? I whispered into the darkness. Could God actually love me? Even though I felt safe in the children's home, the pain from my father's words didn't go away. It was like a deep cut that kept hurting even after it stopped bleeding. I come to understand from the similar stories I heard from other children I just meet, many children are trapped under the yoke of Islam. During the day, when we were all playing games or doing our lessons together, I could almost forget about it. But at night, when everything was quiet and dark, those words would come back. Of no use, someone should take you away. You are a burden. Please, as you listen to my story, also pray for children like me. I would lie on my mat and replay that terrible day over and over in my mind. I could still see my father's angry face, still hear the disappointment in his voice. Sometimes I would touch my chest where it felt like something was broken inside. The other children noticed I was sad. Noor would sit next to me during meals when she saw me pushing my food around my plate instead of eating. "Are you okay, Fatima?" she would ask. "I'm fine," I would say, but we both knew it wasn't true. One afternoon, while we were all drawing pictures with colored pencils, I drew my family. I drew my father very big and myself smaller. When Sister Miriam saw my drawing, she sat down next to me. "Tell me about your picture," she said gently. "That's my father," I said, pointing to the big figure. "And that tiny one is me. That's how he sees me, so small that I don't matter." Sister Miriam was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised me. "You know, Fatima, sometimes people who are hurt inside say hurtful things to others. It doesn't mean what they say is true." I looked up at her. "But what if it is true? What if I really am useless?" She shook her head firmly. "God doesn't make useless people. Every person he creates has a special purpose." But deep inside, I still wasn't sure I believed that about myself. 6 months after I arrived at the children's home, my body started feeling strange. It began with small things. I felt tired all the time, even after sleeping all night. Food started tasting like nothing, and I had to force myself to eat. Then one morning, I woke up and the room was spinning. When I tried to stand up, I fell back down on my mat. My forehead felt like someone had put hot coals on it. "Fatima!" Noor called out when she saw me. "Sister Miriam! Come quickly!" Sister Miriam rushed into our room and knelt beside me. She touched my forehead and her face looked worried. "You're burning up with fever," she said. For the next few days, I could barely get out of bed. Sister Miriam brought me medicine, bitter liquid that made my tongue curl. She gave me lots of water and made special soup for me to drink. But instead of getting better, I got worse. My throat became so sore that swallowing water felt difficult. I became so weak that even lifting my head felt impossible. The other children would peek into our room and whisper prayers for me, but I could barely hear them through the fog in my mind. The room felt so cold even though I was burning with fever. I pulled my thin blanket up to my chin, but I couldn't stop shaking. That's when the really scary thoughts came. What if God doesn't really love me? What if I'm going to die alone? I tried to remember the prayers my father had taught me. I whispered them as fast as I could, hoping they would make God help me. But I still felt empty and scared, like those prayers were just bouncing off the ceiling and falling back down. I remembered something Sister Miriam had told me during one of our evening gatherings. You can talk to Jesus like you're talking to your best friend. You don't need special words, just tell him what's in your heart. I had never tried praying like that before. In my family, prayer was about saying the right words in the right way. But lying there, feeling like I might die, I decided to try something different. "Jesus," I whispered, my voice so weak I could barely hear myself. Sister Miriam says you love children. She says you care about me. But I feel so sick and so alone. My father thinks I'm worthless. Sometimes I think he's right. I had to stop talking because I was crying. If you're really there, I continued, if you really love me, heal me and show yourself to me. After I said those words, something strange happened. Suddenly, everything felt different. It was like someone had lit a warm candle in my chest. The heavy, scared feeling that had been sitting on me like a big rock started to lift. I felt like invisible arms were wrapping around me, holding me gently. And literally felt like something dark left my body. I wasn't hearing voices or seeing bright lights. But somehow, deep in my heart, I knew that someone was there with me. Someone who loved me exactly as I was and have cleaned me up. The knowledge came to me as clear as if someone was speaking. I have loved you since before you were born. I created you on purpose, for a purpose. You are not a mistake. You are not worthless. You are my beloved daughter. For the first time in months, I stopped crying tears of sadness and started crying tears of relief. The pounding in my head was gone. My throat didn't felt okay again. I touched my forehead. It felt cool, not burning hot like it had been for days. Slowly, carefully I sat up. Usually, when I tried to sit up, the room would spin and I would have to lie back down. But this time, everything stayed still and clear. For the first time in my life, I felt like I truly belonged somewhere. But the biggest change wasn't in my body, it was in my heart. All those heavy, scary feelings were gone. The fear that used to follow me everywhere, whispering that I wasn't good enough, had disappeared. The next morning, when Sister Miriam came to check on me, her eyes went wide. Fatima, you look so much better. How do you feel? I feel different, I said, sitting up easily. Sister Miriam, I think Jesus came to visit me last night. Her face lit up with the biggest smile I had ever seen. Fatima, she said, you've been born again. SA has made you his daughter. From that day on, my life in the children's home changed completely. I started understanding things I had never understood before. The other children became like real brothers and sisters to me. When I was sad, they would sit with me. When I was happy, they celebrated with me. As I grew older and stronger in my faith, I felt something burning inside me, not fever this time, but excitement. I wanted to tell other people about what Jesus had done for me. Beloved in Christ, I want you to know that no matter how difficult your life feels right now, God has not forgotten about you. Maybe your family doesn't treat you well. Maybe people have said mean things that made you feel worthless. Maybe you feel scared and alone. I understand those feelings because I lived with them for many years. But I want to tell you the truth that changed my life. God loves you deeply, and He has wonderful plans for your future. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You were created on purpose, for a purpose. God loves you more than you can imagine. You are precious to Him, and your life has great value.